the angle that we want to emphasize again is immigrant, mom and pop, POC owned and operated restaurants are probably not thinking in these terms.
They're not.
Right? But why not? As soon as I called them, it's like, hey, can I pull up, highlight your eatery? The first question they would ask before hanging up was, yo, how much you trying to charge me?
Or you're like the Department of Health and you're going to come in there undercover.
Get money out of them.
And what most people don't understand is that when you look at a YouTuber and you try to marginalize them as a creator, our politicians are creators. Our business leaders are creators.
Twitter, LinkedIn, and way different from TikTok.
He knew that fluency matters, right?
I think he is my father. I think he started having kids when he was. All right, so today's guests are changing the way we see food online. They have a little over 400,000 combined followers on TikTok and Instagram, and they're called Righteous Eats. And they shine a spotlight on small New York restaurants, ones mostly run by immigrants and members of minority groups. So like killing it, awesome, amazing, amazing message. Also, they do not accept free meals. They do this and they pay for the food. Important to note. And today we're going to talk about how it all started, the business behind the brand, and what the future looks like for Righteous Eats. So, boys, everybody, thank you so much for being here.
Woo!
Yeah. Thank you guys for having us, man.
I think that's the best intro we've ever had.
Yeah.
Welcome to the business of influence.
Very succinct.
Shout out to ChatGPT. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we actually talk about AI and how we use AI to do everything from descriptions to ideating different, eateries and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually wouldn't put it past.
I actually would applaud you for utilizing
I was like,
ChatGPT.
absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, and
be more
saving time.
I'm going to use my resources. Listen, man. Dude, first of all, your voice is so soothing.
This is AI, though.
It is. No, dude.
efficient? Jasper AI right here.
Yeah.
I was doing my research and I was like doing it late last night. I was like listening to it and I was just like falling asleep, not because it was boring, but it was just like, damn, I could this is great. So I just want to commend you on your voice,
these
dude.
noodles. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. I thought it was fake because I saw your TikToks and you're like, yo, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is like enhanced. And then I heard you guys' podcast. I'm like, whoa, he talks like that. Anyways, just want to start off.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's your story? How'd you guys meet? Who are you guys?
So,
Let's
wow,
get into it.
man, I'm getting interrogated straight off the bat. My name is Jakey Cho. I'm a full-time content creator now, and from Queens, New York. And I met Brian because a good friend of mine, he's a rapper from LA called Dumbfounded. Brian used to manage this artist. And, Brian's originally from LA, but I'm not going to get too much into like his story because I'll let him talk about that. But he was one of the guys that I knew that has had incredible fluency in the creator space from back in like 2006. And when he moved to New York and, during the pandemic, I started making a lot of these cooking videos just for fun.
Yeah.
And these videos started to go viral. And it was kind of like, because TikTok is like it's a new territory at the time, right? In 2020. So the algorithm was being very generous and my content kept getting fed in the FYP. And I was getting like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers in a day, which never happened to me on Instagram ever. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like, what do I do with this? So one of the first guys that I reached out to was Brian. Is like, yo, like,
how do I capitalize on this?
Well, it wasn't even that conversation. It was really because I wanted to hit him up about putting together an Asian podcast network about, featuring Asian American podcasters. And he was basically like, yo, son, you too late for that. Yo, you're already in the 8th inning. Everybody's going to cash out in the next 6 months. And what's up with your TikTok stuff, though? You're growing really fast on that. You should be leaning into that. And literally like 6 months later, you heard like Bill Simmons got a deal. You know what I mean? Joe Rogan cashed out. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, Brian was, he was on point. He kind of foresaw that. And by then, though, we were already working together. By working together, it was more so just weekly calls of him just being, Yoda, providing some insight, telling me, yo, maybe you should do programming this way. And, next thing 18 months later, we decided to just kind of go full time. I had another job. I own a retail business out in Queens in Flushing.
Okay.
It's a sneaker store / like streetwear, contemporary menswear.
Like right down the street. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, if Kith is like Jay-Z at his prime, like we're more like Fabulous during the mixtape days, you know what I'm saying? Like, and nothing against Fabulous, you know what I mean? But like this is not even like Fabulous with like the hits, So we're a lot like in terms of the caliber, but yeah, like that's kind of what I was overseeing. And 2022 came in, we decided to just go full time.
Nice.
Being content creators.
So you were in the content game already?
Yeah, so I've been in the content space since like 2009, 2000, like officially since 2009. Sure. But I've been obsessed with it since 2006 when YouTube started, right? Yeah. And it's funny, this podcast is called The Business of Influencers. When I started this, there was no such thing as an influencer. There was no such thing as a YouTuber, actually, right? Yeah. So my previous company, I worked in music. That company was called Knocksteady, managed Dumbfounded, Anderson .Paak, a bunch of other artists. I'm from LA. It was very plugged into that LA music scene. Yeah. But that got acquired by another company called Maker Studios, which was actually the largest influencer YouTube.
Was it like network. An MCN?
It was the MCN.
Okay.
It was the MCN, and we got acquired by Disney. And then when that got acquired by Disney, and I was, and by the way, like that's an easy story to tell, but nothing about that process was easy, right? Yeah. And then so when that happened, I was like, okay, this is great. I want to take a break for a while. I actually I wanted to just travel the world for a while. I ended up coming to New York, first stop on my way to Europe. And then I met my wife on Tinder first week. And then,
the first week on Tinder?
First week on Tinder. And I could never use Tinder in LA because like in LA, like the kids on my staff were using it and they're like, I never wanted to be that guy So anyway, long story short, that's basically what happened. And Jakey knew me from that. And he's like, hey.
He knew you from Tinder too?
Well, he knew me from the world of like, hey, what's going on in digital media? What's going on in VC? What's going on? Like, how are you going to, like, what should I do? How can I plug into that? And that's when he reached out and I was like, hey, that's cool. Like, podcast network is a good idea. And I think that there's an opportunity there. But if you're really trying to do what you're trying to do, then why don't you lean into this new thing? I think short form video, I think like TikTok was fascinating for me. Short form was fascinating for me because it was the first time when we started YouTube, when we were working with like musicians, YouTubers, it was about like gaming. Like we would put a rap song in like education or travel. Cause if we can win that category. Yeah. Cause if we could win that category and make the modern day version of FYP and make the homepage, then you're getting all this other stuff, right? We would arbitrage stuff like that. TikTok was the first time when we were like, hey, the platform literally provided a platform where they encourage you to do just what you do. Yeah. If you're a subject matter expertise, if you have a subject matter expertise in like real estate, sure, talk about that. If you're providing authenticity, utility, and you have an authority in it, we'll do the rest and we'll service your video to a bunch of people. And I was like, yo, this is going to change everything. So I was like, yo, lean into that. Yeah. And he did. And basically like what started off is like just, weekly mentor calls turned into like every single thing he did, he crushed. And we're like, hey, you know what? Why don't we actually do this? So, he's very humble about it, but like even him being an influencer or a creator, when a brand approaches us about like, hey, can we work with you as an influencer? We're like, if we're super passionate about the product, we're like, can we invest in you actually? Yeah. Can we get on your cap table? And they're like, wait, what? Influencers don't ask us to invest in our company. Like, what are you guys talking about? Because, whether you're doing real estate or selling a consumer product good, in today's world, if you don't know how to connect with your community and have that trust, you're not going to survive. So that's what we do.
So what were those early conversations with like, yo, like I'm just a creator, but I want to do this Righteous Eats thing. Like what was that? Like where was that shift?
Yeah. So Righteous Eats was kind of like a natural progression into, because I started off making cooking videos, right? And
you were cooking?
I was cooking myself. Yeah, I was just. It was during the pandemic. Everybody, all of it, overnight, were becoming subject matter experts in so many different things. Yes, because they just picked up new hobbies. And I was making cooking videos, not because
starters.
Yeah, like they were making kombucha,
building furniture out of trash.
Yeah,
he's dumpster diving.
Okay, we don't have to go. It's about them. Come on.
So
it's true. Look it up.
Yeah. So really? I mean, it started off with that because I was always passionate about food, and my upbringing coming from Queens, I was surrounded by so much diversity since I was a kid. So And food was like that universal connector, the language that everybody could relate to, regardless of your political ideology. People got to eat, you know what I mean? So that was always the connector for me. And once I amassed an audience creating these cooking content, I knew that I wasn't going to keep making cooking content because I'm not a cook. I'm not a chef. You know, I only have so much limited authority in terms of what I could do in that space. But around that time, and Ryan, I'm sure you know this very well because so many of small businesses throughout New York City were being fucked, not only because there was no customers because of the pandemic, obviously, but they weren't getting the right type of rent situation, you know what I mean? And a lot of these restaurants, they're owned and operated by immigrants with limited fluency in terms of the business landscape, so they weren't able to secure PPP loans. Wow, you know, shout out to Danny Myers, but we heard stories about like the loans that he was able to amass, right? So some like small mom and pop eatery in Flushing, Queens, the lady she has no wherewithal of how to do that, right? Sure. And these eateries were the eateries that I grew up going to and that I had so much familiarity with. And I was like, yo, why don't we just start like highlighting them, see if we could drive any sort of traffic to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was the genesis of Righteous Eats. It was just me hitting up the restaurants that I personally liked. I told them, I'll buy the food. I just want to shout you guys out. And initially, a lot of the reservation was, I believe because Yelp has these sales reps where they call people and, you know, call people and say, yo, we're going to make videos for you. They thought it was one of those. So they
thought you worked for Yelp?
They thought I worked for Yelp. They thought I was just like a contractor trying to like.
Or you're like the Department of Health and you're
get money out of them, out of them to make videos for them. So they were, as soon as I called them, it's like, hey, can I pull up, highlight your eatery? The first question they would ask before hanging up was, yo, how much you trying to charge me? And I was like, I'm not trying to charge. What do you? And up until that point, I had no idea that was a hustle. Yeah, like I didn't even know other influencers were charging people to make content about these local mom and pop eateries, you know? But I told them, yo, that's the antithesis of what I'm trying to do with y'all. And one thing led to another. Righteous Eats pretty much went from that initial step. After 50 restaurants that we highlighted, we decided to bring on a team member. His name is Rob Martinez. Shout out to Rob. You know what I mean? And we brought him on and we started just going full time with it in 2022, April.
Nice.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's only a year and a half old. Yeah.
So how do you think about content now? Walk me through like the process of creating one of your videos. How often do you make them? How are you picking the restaurants? Like what's your creator process?
Our view on, you know, content today is basically number one, what is the utility?
Yep.
You know, we're all in a war for your attention, whether you're Netflix.
It's the attention economy right now.
Yeah, it's the attention economy, and we're all fighting for that attention. Yep. So number one, your value proposition, whether I'm doom scrolling or coming through like your nice sort of thumbnail at the front of Netflix, I better know what you're providing, number one. So the first thing is utility. What utility are we providing? Yeah. Number two, are we being authentic? I'm not going to try to give you jokes and be a comedian if that's not what we are. So number two, are we being authentic?
Yeah.
And number three, what's our authority? Like food works for us because at the end of the day, he was cooking. He's passionate about the culture. He grew up in Queens, the world's borough. You know, he has access to all that. Me too. Like I was traveling to, you know, like the taco stand. I'm from LA, but I was also traveling to 3-star Michelin restaurants all across the world, right? Like I love food, right? Yeah. So like whatever you're doing. So those are the three criteria. Are you providing utility? Is it authentic? And at the end of the day, do you have an authority to talk about this? Yeah. And that's what it is, whether you're a plastic surgeon or a banker.
Yeah. Or
a real estate
agent.
Yeah. I noticed you guys are going super hard on short form, and I kind of think that's kind of where the world is going.
Totally.
Because I was just doing some research, and you have like long form YouTube videos out, but a majority of it is short form. Is that? Do we plan on going more long form, or do we care?
I'm sure Brian could talk wax poetic about this all day, but in terms of like monetization, YouTube offers the best CPM. Correct. Right. So long form is, if you're really just trying to monetize your content directly, long form is the way. Okay. But in terms of visibility and exposure, there's nothing really beating short form at the moment.
You can have this view that like television, cable TV, and these types of things still matter. But like, I think one of the things that I saw that you did super early was jumping on social or social, right? Or YouTube, and now the podcast, right? Yeah. And for us, we look at all of these other platforms as just added distribution, right? Yeah, sure. So like, we don't look at, you mentioned Netflix earlier today. It's like, Netflix is great. I would love to have a series on Netflix. But at the end of the day, that's not a destination or a sign of like, arrival for us. That's literally just new distribution that might not be scrolling FYP on TikTok.
Yeah.
And so even though I know YouTube as a platform the best, we started very deliberately on TikTok and on Instagram Reels, short form content, because that's where the audience that we want to connect with, the 20-year-old, the 19-year-old, the 25-year-old, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, that's your what we call your hero platform, right? So that's it. Like, so like if all else comes to fail, that's where you hero all day long.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And then from there, you're diversifying and going into different, talking about food across Twitter, maybe doing business reviews on LinkedIn, going into threads
100%.
these days.
Land and expand, right? Private equity term, like land and expand.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
What's the team? Like, what's the overhead? Like, how big are you? Like,
I mean, right now the team is literally Jakey Cho, Brian Lee, Rob Martinez. Shout out to him. We have young Julian over there. I guess like 3
You're looking
people.
at the team.
Yeah.
So how many, so going back to, how do you pick a restaurant? And then how long does it take you to shoot a video? And how many do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Initially, it started off with our own discretion. Like, it would be spots that I personally like, or it'd be a community staple. And we really emphasize the point of community.
Yeah.
So far, as of late, all the restaurants have been community recommendations. We have a form. People send in their stories on why specifically this restaurant deserves the highlight. And we take it from there. And we obviously do our due diligence, right? Because if we went to like an amazing taqueria literally last week, we're not going to hit up 5 more taquerias, right? We're going to obviously try to diversify. I mean, your boy was just saying, yo, if you need a Baharian Jew plug, let me know. So, we haven't highlighted a Baharian Jew joint in Forest Hills yet. So maybe I might need to check in with him, right? So we always want to diversify. And I mean, recently we just did an exercise, like we flipped the globe around and which cuisine from a specific country we haven't highlighted yet. We randomly fell upon like Ivory Coast in West Africa. Did some Google search. You gotta
get some of that stuff.
Yeah. And then we found a restaurant in Harlem. It didn't really have much reviews on Google or Yelp. We just kind of took a bet, and it was one of the best meals that I've had this year. Shout out to Scylla. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I think 2 things on that. It's like, number one, the why for what we're trying to do with Righteous Eats is like, at the end of the day, when so many people are divided and think that like they're arguing about everything, like people argue literally about like, this is white, no, this is black, this is hot, no, this is cold. Like literally people in today's world argue about everything.
Yeah.
Even though you think that all these things are different, at the end of the day, we're all the same, right?
Yeah.
Like food is universal to whatever culture you are, right? So we're trying to build that empathy through representation. And that's why like when we spin the globe and we're like, hey, you know what? Let's actually showcase this and that, right? Like we want to get into that. Second thing that I want to say is when we think about content and just the evolution process and like the iteration, we think of it as product, no different from like software, right? One of the things that we recently implemented is we're trying to give attribution. So like in all the videos going forward, I actually want to say like, hey, Ryan put me onto whatever it is. Like, this spot in Brooklyn or this spot in Tribeca. Like I want to be able to say that and show that because again, that's paramount to trust to the community and saying, hey, you know what, Jakey, this is Jakey's spot. He was looking at the globe and he picked that spot, right? Because so much of this world, the like restaurant comms communication world, it's so opaque.
Yeah, it's like, how did you end up in that list? You know what I'm saying? Like, did anybody ever break down the criteria for that list, right? But we kind of abide by it like a Bible, right? It's this dogma, but then we don't really think about like how, why.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that happens because, like, by the way, like I'm gonna brag for Jakey a little bit. He was a writer for like the magazines, right? Double XL, He started in that world. I come from the digital publishing world. So like when I look at it, I'm like, oh wait, I used to look at something like, even, top restaurants or Michelin or Forbes 40 under 40. I used to think all that stuff was like, or even US News and like what colleges are.
Best
right?
colleges.
I used to think like, these are Bible. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And then you start working in publishing and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're like, oh, wait, cranes or whatever.
Everything's for sale.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's crazy you said that list. There was a show on, I think it was BuzzFeed. They had Worth It. Do you guys remember that?
We love that show.
I love that show.
Well, I used to live in Northern California. I used to drive down to Southern California, LA, and like I would hit up all of like the cheap spots, and like I went just because of that show.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was a fun thing me and my friends did. So you guys on your website have a list of or a little like a map, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Of all the places you guys go to. I think that's super smart. And I think there's a lot of people who do that, who like hit up these spots. I'm sure there's someone out there going down your list. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, specifically. And I think one thing that, there are certain community members say, hey, actually, we tried this spot. We didn't have the same experience that you highlighted. Or, we tried this spot and we didn't think the food was good. That's all good. We never said it was the best. We never said that this is like 5 stars. We never, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not here to critique and provide awards. We're just highlighting spots that we personally believe that deserves their story to be highlighted, or spots that myself, Rob, who's not here, or Brian just enjoy to eat. Just because I have a specific type of palate, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna all share the same palate when it comes down to food.
What is your favorite type of food?
That's like asking like a musician, like what's your favorite music? It's a little hard for me to do, but if you are asking me like what is one thing that I would eat before I go,
To jail.
go maybe not jail, but if before I
Ryan, you trying to put him in jail right now? Like,
No, it's not. Dude, there's this guy on TikTok who talks there's people on TikTok that talk all about that time they what it was like going to jail.
Right.
And they were like,
the day before. Your FYP is
I know, your
obviously
FYP, I
different
wanna
from
know what
mine,
else is
man.
my FYP is people who went to jail
And tax
and then
evasions.
bikini models. That is all. That's all I see, and I don't know why. And I keep saying to it, I'm like, no, show me other things. TikTok, and it doesn't. It just keeps showing me.
That might be my fault.
These guys are all in my phone.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I give my phone to some other people, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's a lot of dudes on my TikTok now.
Right.
You know?
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. So, what is your favorite type of food, though?
Yeah, I mean, it has to involve some sort of a broth accompanied by some form of a carbohydrate. So in Korean culture, there's this thing called kupbap. It literally means soup with rice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an everyday working man's meal.
So your favorite food is soup and rice.
Soup and rice. As long as that's the soup, though, it has to be like boiled for at least like 6 hours. So all that umami, the taste, and all the flavor just has to harmonize, and accompanied by some form of a soup, noodle, or bread even.
I'm looking for a good ramen spot, bro.
What's your favorite type of?
Ramen. What's
Your favorite food is ramen?
Love ramen.
but what kind of ramen? There's sukumen ramen where you dip it into the sauce. There's
Just
like
like a tonkatsu, right? Is that like
yeah, tonkatsu ramen. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You like the deep, rich flavor,
yeah.
super fatty.
There's a ramen place in the village I went to one time a long time ago. I don't know if it's still there anymore.
That's what's it called?
Ramen
You're no help.
place.
Put me on, bro. What's a good ramen? I'm a Bushwick boy.
I mean, you're probably thinking about Ipu though.
Yeah.
If it's in the
Yeah,
if it's in the East
village.
Village and it's somewhere that is well known,
Got it.
where the broth is so oily that it just kind of has that lubricant effect on
Oh
your
yeah,
lips.
maybe. And you're not supposed to they tell you like don't bite the noodles. You're supposed to slurp it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to slurp it. Otherwise, it is an insult to the chef.
It's disrespectful, right?
And that's very stressful for me. It's like being just like a very like clean person. I'm like,
Ryan,
just
what's your
weird.
favorite meal?
my
Or
favorite meal.
food? Yeah.
Well, Ryan has his food made for him every day, so I mean, it's like processed chicken.
Yeah, but I don't like the food I eat all day long, dude. I don't get to enjoy that kind of life, man. I like.
You're about to go to jail. What are you gonna eat?
I mean, dude, I'm like super American about it. I'd probably have like steak and lobster would probably be my thing.
So where's the best steak in New York City for you?
Oh, that's it. You know what? We spent a lot of time because our office was in Tribeca for a long time, and we're here. And so, like, a company place we would go to is this steak place called Wolfgang's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, in
Cool.
Tribeca.
Fantastic.
Yeah, of
Absolutely.
And it's just like, hey, listen, there's good steak in a lot of places.
Right.
There's great, I just came back from Greece. My family's Greek, and so they're in Greece the whole summer.
Word.
And there is a place, and you spend a lot of time in Greece eating fish, right? It's like you could eat everything in the world. You come back and you've lost weight because all you do there is you sweat, right? You swim and you just eat white fish and vegetables, and the vegetables taste like fruit because it's
Amazing.
like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
natural. It's grown without pesticides. It's everything is like natural, and you're like
photosynthesis
you like
that it sucks up is
you
in a
like grab a
different
tomato
level.
and you're like eating it raw like an
100%.
apple, and you're like I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm doing this.
Totally.
But there's a place called Beef Bar, I guess is how you would
You
say.
sure? You sure it's called Beef Bar? It's literally called Beef Bar.
Yeah.
In Greek.
Yeah, no, in Greece it's called Beef Bar, and like it's
Okay.
great.
Okay. Dope, man.
It's great steak. I would eat a great steak. I shouldn't eat steak as much anymore. I do feel like it takes me like 4 days to digest red meat now.
Dude, I had the opposite effect. I just came back from LA and I just gained like 5 pounds, dude. There's like a Mexican food in LA. I mean, you will know. You know.
Did you go to In-N-Out while you were there?
Rob and I
all
fight
the
about
time?
You go all the. What do you mean all the time?
I love In-N-Out, dude. It's
I
that
love
good.
In-N-Out,
But I don't think you should go there all the time. I don't think it's like healthy.
I'm gonna shout out a spot that I thought was great, and then let me know if you've been. It's called Burger She Wrote. Have you guys been there?
that. Never
Nah,
been.
I
Oh,
haven't.
bro,
Gotta
if you
be
go
new.
back,
I'm from LA too. I've never heard of it.
it's
Yeah.
so good. It's right off of like Fairfax.
Okay.
Dope.
Best smash burger I think I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
That's what's up. We just came back from Portugal, 2 separate trips. Well, you was in Spain. But I agree with you about like food in Europe.
Totally. I ate so much, and I didn't feel bloated at all. I've been back for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I have one meal, and I'm like, I feel bloated.
Yeah,
Our
just
food's
everything
just
that gets
different.
added
It's
to the
just
food
different.
here.
It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
like
not as- it's not as
GMO,
fresh.
corn syrup, a lot of the stuff that are banned in Europe,
Yeah.
you know, it's freely injected into all of our food here. So
Yeah.
I think it has,
wild.
I mean, it's compounded effect on your body if you just eat that for the entirety of your life.
Yeah, and I don't think Americans also don't realize, and maybe they do now, like just how much sugar is in so much food.
100%.
Right? How much sugar in so much food, and how much fat is in so much food that you don't actually, like you think you're eating healthy, but you're absolutely not.
You go to like a convenience store in East Asia, like in Japan or Korea, you have an entire aisle of tea options that has absolutely no sugar at all.
Yeah.
You go to a local bodega in New York City, the only beverage that has no sugar is water.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now they even try to inject sugar into the water. You know what I mean? So,
That's wild.
it's I think
Probably, I mean, it's
a big conversation to have for sure.
it's a it's a major form of addiction, right? And you just don't think about it because it doesn't kill you tomorrow, right? It just adds to
killing
you know,
you
especially-
softly, though.
Yeah, it's killing you softly and adds to childhood obesity, obviously, you know. And there's all those conversations, and you know, I don't know. It's something that's really really hard to get away from in the States because it's cheaper to eat food that has added sugar than it is to eat organically. Like it's, you know, it's what did someone say to me? They're like, dude, I'm not in that income bracket to eat healthy. Like, you know, I'm not in that tax bracket to eat healthy that way. You know, I'm just going to go die slowly because that's actually better for the United States, right? Move me through the system, fatten me up, die early, move me through the system, pay my taxes, move me through the system.
I love it. I love that you're talking about it because it's absolutely true, right? Like,
is.
how many people are
No,
going
it's super true.
Yeah, Erewhon, right? How many people go to who? I mean, even the concept of Whole Foods, right? Like Whole Foods, in like, yeah, it's actually way more expensive
Yeah.
to eat that way, to eat naturally from the ground, than it is from like this processed chicken thing that you can get from the fast food spot.
Why is that? Like, why is it that like European countries, like we know they're bad for us. The government knows they're not the greatest for us. It's banned in Europe. Why? Is it cost? Is it just?
I mean, we're not
business.
subject matter experts in it, but yeah, I mean, it's Wall Street, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's just a business. It's like it's you know,
and what I mean by Wall Street is just that, yeah, like you have like investors and you have people that you got to
Lobbyists.
report to every quarter.
100%.
you can look it up. Like,
Yeah.
look at I was talking to Diego about it yesterday. Actually, you know, it's like we grew up conditioned to drink milk, right? Milk does the body good.
That, I was literally thinking
Dude,
about
milk
that.
does the body
One
good.
of the strongest lobbies in the
Yeah,
country.
of all time.
Yes.
There was a surplus with dairy farmers. And so they lobbied to create advertising and marketing,
Which was
turned it into
one of the greatest advertising campaigns of all
turned it
time.
into it became part of the FDA's message for all kids. You know, got milk, drink milk.
100%.
Milk is great for growing babies. Milk's not like I should
It's
not
not
be
good.
sitting here
Yeah.
drinking a cup of milk.
Oof. All right, babe. Get rid
You
of
know
all
what I
the
mean?
milk.
And there's milk, and there's milk and dairy in so much food. I do, I look at everything like a business, but I do look at, the country as a business, right? And the best politicians end up being the best CEOs because they really look at it like a business, but everything is structured to create more employees. right? The more babies you have, right?
The more market you
Yeah,
have.
and the more you feed on us, the more you need us, the more you actually don't make money. We're going to take care of you, baby, right? We're going to take care of you. Have more babies, have more babies, have more babies, because you feed into that system. We fatten you up, we move you out.
And I think that's why when you were asking, why does Europe have a different standard? I think it's a lot more complex with colonialism. They have like a lot of a safety net from everything that they've been extracting for hundreds of years. But in addition to that, like Peter Thiel was saying that, what is it, indefinite pessimism that Europeans have is that they're not having kids anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're in a different mind state. They're like, yo, we want to make sure that we take care of ourselves now.
Yeah.
So what's the first thing that we need to do is make sure that our food is good.
They're also much smaller countries, and they're much older, right, than the United States.
100%.
You know, we are relatively new. We're built, you know, on top of capitalism, which is fine and great. It's the whole reason we're all here. But that also means that that same ideology goes into the food that you eat and how we're marketing to, you know, how we're marketing to kids and how we're marketing to parents. Like if it was, you know, anyway, it's not the part of this podcast.
I know this got real. Like,
I know, damn.
No, but it's true. That said, though,
I'm so
right?
sorry. I'm gonna jump to the rest.
Go for it.
No problem. That said, you know, you look at China, right? You look at India, right? India will be the second biggest economy, I think, in the next couple of years. Those are, I mean, I wouldn't say that those are two super healthy countries, though, right? And they have mass population issues. Anyway,
damn, that got
righteous
dark.
eats.
You were like, what was the inkling to get into social? Like
Inkling to get on social?
Yeah. Like what? Like why? Like why the cooking videos and like why make the TikToks?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did you see like a?
Well, I was always like in media. Like he
Yeah.
referenced that I worked as a journalist. I was a writer and editor.
How old are you now?
I'm 34 this year.
Got it.
Yeah. How old are you guys?
31.
39.
Okay. Gotcha.
Old.
Yeah. No, you look great. Yeah, you guys look great, man.
Thanks.
So yeah, I was always in the media space as a producer, as more of a behind the scenes guy in many different occasions. And I think during the pandemic, I was just making cooking videos just for fun on Instagram. And a friend of mine who is currently the general manager at Complex Media Group, shout out to Donnie Kwok, he basically was like annoyed at the fact that I was posting these short form Instagram stories of me cooking. And he was like, yo, this is mad annoying. You should just turn these into TikTok videos.
Yeah.
That was essentially the genesis of it.
How did the New York Times piece come about?
Okay, we're going right over there. Which publicist did you hire? Nah, it was just all happened very organically.
Like they reached out to you and
yeah. So the writer, shout out to Josh Needleman. He was working on a series of pieces where he wanted to highlight content creators that are making content for good, you know, altruistic content creators. Yeah. And one of them, one other creator that he highlighted was my friend New York Nico. Shout out to Nico. Yeah. He got put on to a video where Brian was being extra transparent about our Righteous Eats process. So it wasn't even one of the videos where I'm highlighting an eatery. It was the way that we were approaching on how we highlight these eateries.
I think the video was actually about like, we get a bunch of people sending in our community. They're like, hey, this creator just went to the same spot that you went to.
Right.
And hey, NBC literally lifted your entire story about this cheesecake spot. They did it shot for shot. What do you guys think about that? And we're like, and so I did a quick video.
Shout out to NBC though.
Yeah.
Shout out to Peacock. Yo, we ready.
NBC, CBS. I don't know who it is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did an NBC piece. By the way, I love that Jakey's always like the consummate professional and very like.
He's on it.
Yeah, very
indefinite positivity over here.
Definite
100%
optimism.
And I'm Larry David, right? I'm like no, but I was like, I actually thought about it. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, if people are like biting or copying the same restaurants, that's ultimately good, no? Yeah. Because the restaurant gets shine, more people are going to know about it. It actually means that we're covering things in a way that makes it meaningful, and that's what I said. And it's so funny because I asked Josh, I'm like, hey Josh, we were in Queens, by the way, and he lives in Astoria, and we're like, hey, so what'd you think about whatever AOC? And he's like, wait, you guys did something with AOC? And we're like, yeah. I thought that's why you reached out to us. He's like, no, I saw a video of my colleague put me onto a video of you in the car talking about other people like copying the same videos that you guys were doing. And that's why I said I wanted to reach out. He's like, what'd you do with AOC? We're like, oh, okay, never mind. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I it's probably like, it's these little things that don't get millions of views, that don't get seen, but somehow it hits the right people.
So what did that piece do for you?
I mean, it kind of like gave me more bandwidth for our partners.
Yeah.
And our significant and our family to be like, oh, you guys are doing something.
Right,
good.
so it legitimizes like you eating Rich
My
Rich.
mother-in-law doesn't understand TikTok. She understands the New York Times.
Yeah,
sure.
my pops, he's like, yo, when is this coming out in print so he could frame it? But in terms
Just
of
walk
like
around this office, man. Yeah.
in terms of conversion, did we get more followers from it? No. I mean, I don't think so, at least.
No.
Maybe.
It's a large world
Privilege.
legitimizer.
It's prestige.
Ryan,
So-
you know what we call it? So internally, we call this the Sunset Boulevard billboard,
Okay, got it.
right?
Nice.
Right? So like, if you look at the Sunset Boulevard billboard, that's a horrible ROI from how much it costs and the actual reach.
Yeah.
But it matters to like 12 executives that run
Yes.
Would
studios
you start driving through there?
and 100 artists and actors
Yeah.
that see it and say, you know what? I got to do something with these guys.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's what the New York Times is for us.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
kind of similar when we got our faces on the billboards in Times Square
Samsung?
for Samsung.
Yeah.
Like my mom was asking me, like, how many more followers did you get from that? I don't think any.
yeah.
But it was really the fact that, okay, you were in Times Square, you were in the billboard, Sunset Boulevard billboard.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a follow up to that? So, like, I want to give you your flowers. You're so on it in terms of being able to plug into like the new tools. Like, they're not even new tools, the tools that matter now, like with this podcast, with Instagram, with social, all these things.
Yep.
Like, how, if you had to do like a split of like, how does that compare to like you getting a Netflix thing or you being on like, Bravo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, listen, I owe a lot to Bravo.
Shout out to Bravo.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I owe a lot to shout out to Bravo, dude. I came to New York City to act, and then it didn't work out, and I couldn't make any money, and so I got my real estate license to pay bills. It wasn't to become a realtor. It was, dude, it's this or wait tables, and waiting tables. I got to be there at a certain time, and that just looks like it sucks. I could show a rental apartment, and I lived in Koreatown at 38 West 31st Street.
Have we met before?
I know.
Did we live in the same building? Dude, I think we shared a shower. So I lived between 31st and 32nd Street, and I was just on top of every single subway. It just made my life easy. But and then I went to an open casting call for $1 Million Listing New York, and that's kind of how it happened. But so Bravo was, it was super. I got super lucky at like the height of the network reality TV boom. $1 Million Listing New York premieres in 2012. Like at the height of the card, like everything, right? Was right there. There was no, Netflix was DVDs. There's no streaming. YouTube was still like random clips and different random stuff, right? There was no Instagram, nothing like that. And everyone was still complaining about everything because there's too many TV shows out there. But now you're like, dude, remember TV?
Yeah.
And so that was massive. Every time the show would air, or anytime I would go do Watch What Happens Live or anything, I would literally look at Twitter and just watch followers go up because no one had anywhere else to go. You go to Facebook or Twitter, right? That was it.
Yeah.
And then Instagram comes out. And so then it's Instagram, and that's visual for real estate. So that became kind of our hero platform.
Right.
And then it was like 2016, I'm doing my wedding spinoff show, and we started thinking like, House of Cards, man. Like one day, one of these streaming things is going to get live sports. And when one of them gets live sports, TV doesn't go away tomorrow, but it literally starts the 10-year like death knell, right? And so let's get ahead of it because one day $1 Million Listing is going to go away or something. And I want to be able to build brand and have awareness and cut through attention where people start. And I went on a trip, I guess then in 2017 with my like little nephews. And we went to a place that had no TV, had Wi-Fi, but had no TV. And I was like losing my mind. I was like, dude, no TV. I'm on vacation. No TV. What am I supposed to do? Like read a fucking book? Like talk to people? Ugh, I need TV. And my niece and nephew, who were like 8 and 10, could not have cared less. As long as they had their iPad, all their shows, everything was on there. I'm like, what do you watch? We watch YouTube. We watch
They're
this,
watching
this.
Mr. Beast.
Dude, they watch, yeah. And at that moment, I think because then we met in
2018.
And we met in 2018. First vlog drops, in that January, I guess.
January 2018.
Yeah, January 2018. So that was, almost 5.5 years ago. And we were just, we just said, listen, this is going to become really, really big, not just for everybody, right? But for us, for real estate. Let's just be the first, right? Like, well, it's not that big of an investment. Let's go hard and let's just be the best at it.
No, that's incredible foresight.
And I think you had a unique position because guess what? You still have the prestige and the credibility from the traditional.
Yeah, the success has to be there.
Yeah, which you could leverage to like what others are still like. We get this notion about like, okay, if you have a Netflix show, you make it. If you're on TV, you make it. If you make it in the newspaper, you make it. But in actuality, more people watch YouTube every single day than any of the best show. Like you could have the
100%.
craziest like network show, and every day there's more people watching on YouTube, right?
Yeah, but I think to your point about that article, there is an importance to a diversification
Totally.
of being legitimized in a
Totally.
way, right?
It's just added distribution, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's people that aren't streaming or aren't scrolling, and now we have that. And by the way, like we want to go deeper into that. Like, how do we end up in the Dodd report? Like, how do we get into how do we end up in like these other corners?
Yeah.
We think about this. I know I stepped out when we were talking about all the crazy stuff around food, and like we have a very international view on all this stuff. And I know you do. I know you have to in real estate, but for sure, like I think as Americans growing up here, whether culturally or certainly around business, we have this heliocentric view of like everything happens here. And in actuality, it doesn't, dude.
It does not.
It does not. Yeah. There's more people that like you could have every person in the United States watch YouTube every single day. That's still less than how many people are watching YouTube today in India.
Damn.
Right?
Yeah. We're in a bubble, dude.
No, it's dude, listen, it's super, super true. And so like we focus on diversification of influence, as much as possible. One, because you never ever know. And two, because you are hitting different types of people. Like our demographic across our platforms is different on every platform. It's why, unfortunately, for what I do, I can't post the same stuff everywhere because it's a very different demo on our Ryan Serhant YouTube channel, which is different from our more Ryan Serhant YouTube channel, which is more thought leadership, which is different from Instagram, which is really kind of built off the backs of Bravo, right? Which is different from TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and way different from TikTok.
And that's because of him, right? He knew that fluency matters, right?
I think he is my father. I think he started having kids when he was a baby.
When I started during the Maker days, this was when YouTube put like $200 million towards like the premium like YouTube stuff. They're like, hey, we got to get people off of like cat videos to do this thing. And the number one thing that they did was they gave Bravo executives, Food Network executives money to try to make those shows that weren't good enough and put them on YouTube. Guess what happened, Ryan? They all failed.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Right? So the reason that you guys are succeeding is exactly that. Because look, not only are you saying you need different content for YouTube and TikTok, you need different content for this YouTube channel versus this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those are the people that are going to succeed because they have a real connection.
Yeah. Understanding the diversification of distribution and just the nature of these different platforms.
Isn't it awesome that the platforms even exist though?
100%.
Like
100%.
it's like I can't even, we have real estate agents here. Oh, like they wouldn't even know what to do 4 years ago.
Right.
Like they have a business that is now built on platforms that didn't even exist.
Right.
And so, these platforms do create economies.
It does.
Right. And the creator economy will be the largest single workforce in the United States anyway, within like the next 3 years. Meaning that independent contractors, right, and freelancers.
That's literally what we talk about every day.
We literally talk about it every day.
I mean, I was just telling Brian the other day, it's like, whoever that's going to be the predecessor, whoever that's going to replace Jamie Dimon when Jamie Dimon decides to, I don't know, get into politics.
Yeah.
That person would have to know how to make short form videos. Yeah. And not necessarily as in like TikTok dance viral challenges, but that person would need to know how to turn the camera on, look at the camera, selfie style, and like The Rock, how he basically puts out those motivational speeches every morning on Instagram. Yeah. That person would need to understand how to do that and talk about the market.
Yeah, everyone's a media company, whether you like it or not.
100%.
Everyone's a network. Yeah. So when we talk about Jimmy, when we talk about like most people,
I remember that.
Yeah, most people think we're like insane when I literally think he's Walt Disney. I think Mr. Beast, I think Jimmy Donaldson is today's version of Walt Disney as a 25-year-old.
So
have you seen the Walt Disney mind map from the right? He's doing that. He's literally doing that right now, right? He has Feastables. Feastables is feeding this company. I mean, I know he rolled up the ghost kitchens, but like all of it, he has a translation business. He has a production company now. All of it. And what most people don't understand is that when you look at a YouTuber and you try to marginalize them as a creator, right? And a creator is a good word. Most of them call them YouTubers or influencers.
Or influencers.
Right? But like, hey, at the end of the day, our politicians are creators. Our business leaders are creators. Elon Musk is a creator.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a creator. They have a community. Whether he's selling a tequila or a flamethrower, people are buying it, right?
Yeah.
Like, Ryan, you sell real estate, but like you have a community. If you started selling shoes tomorrow, there would be people that buy your shoes.
Not that many, but people would buy it.
Air Serhant. I put it on wax right now. No, but no,
I think you have to stay with. Listen, you mentioned it when we first started, right? It's and you guys are probably the first people on this podcast to actually qualify it as subject matter, right? Expertise, right? To really have that kind of SME to understand that you have to follow that niche model. Like it wouldn't make sense, maybe you will, it wouldn't make sense for you guys to get into furniture, right?
100%.
As an extension, as much as you might love fucking couches.
Yeah, totally.
Right? But for you to then go into restaurants, to go into dishware, to go into chopsticks, silverware, like all that stuff, those are branches of your brand oak tree. And so we think about it the same way. All the different business lines and different things that we do, like real estate happens to be my oak tree. That was never the plan. That's what it is. How many branches can I grow off this thing?
Well, Rock's another one. We think he's one of the ultimate creators right now. At the end of the day, he started in wrestling and is selling an energy drink and his own shoe. Yeah. So without the context of him being the biggest movie star in the world, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But it did work. And so you could continue to land and expand all those things. It's just a matter of like, how can you do it? By the way, to the part of subject matter expertise, the only reason why that's important is because, again, in the attention economy, the value proposition has to be super clear. And we know this
super fast.
And super fast.
Yeah.
So like, are you guys familiar with Vivian Tam? Your rich BFF? You guys should have her on.
I've seen
right,
that.
Right? Yeah. So when I look at her, when we look at her, we literally
should have her on the podcast.
You guys should have her on. Yeah. You're a rich BFF, right? Most people will look at her and say, oh, she's the new Brian Kelly, your points guy, right? The points guy. We look at her, and we're like, yo, she's the next Kathy Wood ARK investment.
Yeah.
Right? She's going to have a cohort. She's on her path to like private equity.
Sure.
Right? But you know what I'm saying? But most people will still look at her and say, hey, you know what? Oh, she's giving you deals on how to buy a wedding ring.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think like even in the space that we're in, there's probably going to be overlap with the real estate space as well, right?
Totally.
Because we're highlighting eateries, we're highlighting restaurants, and commercial real estate, I mean, you probably know this better than anybody else in the room here, but it's not really where it was 10 years ago, and it's going in a very interesting direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think, we talk about this a lot, but...
Oh, yeah. So like in our world, like our not even vision board, but like we know that at some point I want to talk to Estelle Green. I want to talk to Vernado. I want to talk to Tishman Spire. Can we get Rob Spire on the phone to be like, hey, you're doing these developments. We have this impact in the community. How can we work together to platform people that are trying to start businesses, make food, make business, make all these things, and service that actual community? 100%. That's all part of the plan. Because the alternative right now, the same way that like when these big developments go up, you put aside, I lived and rented in these places. Like you need this little like park, right? To do this thing. No, well, guess what? We envision a world in which like you have a restaurant that has a lot of the people that we cover that could come in and be a platform for them to serve food and to incubate and grow their business in that spot.
And I think the angle that we want to emphasize again is the immigrant mom and pop POC owned and operated restaurants are probably not thinking in these terms.
They're not.
Right? Yeah. But why not? Yeah. Because if we could have Tacombi potentially becoming the most popular taco franchise ever, when the people that are creating the food itself might not necessarily from a Mexican culture, might not necessarily from Puebla, might not have soul chalupas on Northern Boulevard or Junction in Queens. Like, why can't we empower them, not only through highlighting them via content, of bringing real equity, essentially teaching them how to fish. You know what I mean?
It's no different from what you guys are doing. Like the same way that you have the awareness to say, like, I got
Just to even have this content
you're like,
platform
I'm
where
so
you're
lucky
like, yo,
to have gone to a casting to do this thing. We are so lucky to have been born where we are, to have had the jobs, to have the exit, to have all these things.
Sure.
And for us, it's like, my parents are that. We've come from those cultures. We come from that. So like, hey, if you're looking at retargeting on email, if you're looking at LTV, if you're looking at like an acquisition cost, if you're looking at like, you know, whatever, you know, like, hey, I think we could do this with Zapier and it'll improve our workflow. Again, why aren't the mom and pop restaurants using that?
Yeah.
And that's what we want to empower.
How do you guys make money?
We don't.
brand deals. Yo.
I mean, so brand
Brand
deals,
deals keeps us afloat.
it subsidizes what we do.
But we don't, like, personally, like,
Not yet.
I mean,
Exactly.
well, with Brian, you know, he's still spending his money from '88. You know what I mean? Like, he had a successful situation. You know, for me, like, I'm just maintaining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just getting by. But every money that we've made, whether it's through brand deals or, you know, we have an ongoing relationship with On Running. Shout out to On Running. You know what I mean? Gotta get that camera on there. Yeah. So On Running is one of our biggest. It's one of our biggest.
Hey, we're a Nike family.
Yeah, it's one of our biggest sponsors.
Nice.
So yeah, everything we've been getting though, we've been reinvesting back into the business. So that, you know,
Smart.
yeah. So
How do you scale? What's the future look like?
that's a very good question. I think scale for us right now, I mean, he mentioned earlier that in our line of work, our product is the content. So we got to pump out more content. So the more content we make, the more opportunities and visibility we get. The more visibility we get, the more brand deals, and everything is just basically like an ecosystem, you know? And how do we make more content? Well, we need to have more people on the team to make content, but also with the advent of AI, we'll see where it goes.
Yep.
You know, the video that used to take me an entire day to make, maybe it could take me, you know, the same amount of time. Maybe I can now make 4 videos because instead of me trying to come up with the ideation and the script, ChatGPT might be able to help me with that.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten the traction that we've gotten so far because it wasn't meant to be a business.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we were trying to give back and use the skills and the ability that we had and the expertise that we had to be able to say like, hey, why don't we do this thing?
No, we love the authenticity,
Yeah.
and I think that's what
Yeah.
it reads, right?
Thank
So people
you.
like it.
That means so much. Seriously, it does. But I also want to be on here to say like, we are businessmen. Like I see an opportunity in which like, hey, ghost kitchens, according to Goldman Sachs, that's a $130 billion TAM globally by the year 2030. And we're already in 2023. So that's going to happen in 7 years. How can we help to be a part of 2% of that, right? As someone with trust in the food space.
Ryan,
right?
you trying to get down with
I
us,
know,
yo?
yeah.
What's good?
Right?
Let's go, man. I like partnerships.
Trying to get down? You
Right?
trying to get in some JV situations?
Like for us, it's like, you know, phase 1, Jakey's on Wax talking about this. Phase 1 was literally just trying to platform people that don't have a platform.
Sure.
Phase 2 is literally, how can we put money into those communities? You mentioned earlier that we pay for all our meals. Yeah, that's because like, you know, how whack would it be if we're trying to charge these restaurants to put them onto the platform, right?
Yeah, no.
I literally want the Vornados, the Relateds, those folks to look at this and say, damn, these guys are doing community work. We need to do something. And like, we have this food hall coming up. Like, why don't we work with them?
Yeah,
And then, but for us, it's like, okay, well, if we could do that, that's an IRL business. And what does that look like? Yeah. So media is like, that's just the tool and the necessary thing that we do to expand the community. But we think that the real opportunities is literally just by helping and giving even more tools to the people that we're putting onto the platform.
Got it.
Yeah.
He's playing the long game.
100%, man.
Yeah, man.
Aren't you guys playing the long game?
I don't know, man. I move 1 hour at a time. Yeah. I actually have to get to the airport like right now.
Where you going?
Where are you going? Where are you going?
We have an office launch tomorrow in Delray
Shit.
Boca. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I fly down there,
Congrats.
do that all day, and then I come right back tomorrow night.
Amazing.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
That's
What's
all right.
your next trip? Were you making some furniture out of some
Dude,
traffic cones?
I'm not
or
traveling. I
something?
just came back from LA, from Southern California for 10 days, and I don't want to look at a plane.
You were
for
gone
another
for 10
month.
days?
I mean, yeah.
Did you put that in ADP?
Thanks for coming to the podcast, guys. This has been great.
Unbelievable.
You guys have been awesome.
Yeah, no, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here.
No,
this has been amazing. Everyone should go follow Righteous Eats, do everything they do, go to the site. These guys
thank you guys
crush
for
it.
having us. And if there's anything that we could do to help, I mean, with you guys, with everything that y'all doing, anybody listening, anybody watching this, we're an open book. You know what I mean? Slide into the DMs. I always holler back. Jakey always hollers back.
He does that.
All right?
Yo.
So just holler back, holler at us. Yeah. In all sincerity, man, appreciate you guys for having us on this. It means a lot. And just holler at us.
Yeah, and in all
we could do to
sincerity
help.
too, like especially because you guys are so forward on. I mean, I hope this comes through in how much we think about the creator economy.
Yeah.
But if there's ever any way that we can help in any sort of way, please, we're here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
Yes,
guys. Thanks for being here.
Peace. Shout out to Queens.